Hi Pisces, it's Jenny here with your Tarot Astrology Horoscope for the month of February. So welcome if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. We're just working our way through the end of winter, so hold on, spring's just around the corner. So the first two-thirds of the month of February is the remainder of Aquarius season, and then we are going to be rolling into Pisces season, so birthday season for you guys, or at least some of you. So we're just going to pull a single card from my Salvador Dali tarot deck to see what's coming up for you this February. All right, just gonna shuffle a little bit here till we see what comes up. Oh, that one. Okay, here we go, Pisces. So you have the Page of Wands reversed. So here's what he looks like the right way up. So we have this young man here. He's kind of dressed up all nice and fancy. He's got his big long wand here. And we have this big kind of bright yellow aura all the way around him. And then right behind him we have this sort of big kind of tall red and green kind of streak up that way. And he came out this way, okay? So I'm just going to reach for my giant book here. Take a look at what we have for the Page of Wands. Okay, Page of Wands, here we go. Renewed strength. Only on this card is the central figure totally enveloped in his own aura from head to foot. This has a double meaning. The Page of Wands is totally immersed in his own concerns. He surrenders to his flame and his passion unconditionally and is always full of enthusiasm. At the same time, the card counsels us to be aware of the limitations of our perceptions because we are absorbed in our own world. The snake-like or butterfly-like drawings around the central figure alert us to our much greater potential. Our zest for action and desire to develop urge us on to reach beyond our own boundaries now. In relation to our motivational forces, Wands, fire, energy, the scope of our actual experience is relatively small. This is a danger, but also an opportunity. Be aware of naive inactivity as well as effusive zeal. We once entered this life full of the will to survive, to grow, and to express ourselves. We can harness this zeal now to explore the world thoroughly, greeting each success or failure as a new experience. If we welcome ordeals of fire and recognize them as a form of inner purification, we will find ourselves enriched by these lessons. Our ability always to go beyond ourselves gives us renewed strength and replenishes our youthful vitality. Practical advice. Learn to understand energies that are larger than you. Be aware of narrow-mindedness. Hold on to that which makes your heart sing and your spirit soar. Okay, on the one hand, this card feels like it's got a lot of energies that are going to kind of integrate really nicely with some of your kind of natural Pisces tendencies, but we are dealing with fire energy, which Pisces being a water sign is the direct opposite, so that there kind of has an opportunity for also doing something that maybe you're not totally used to. So with this figure, we have this risk of being too absorbed in what's inside the aura, that this young page is got some lots of energy, there's some fiery vibes kind of building, but isn't really taking a look of what is outside the bubble and what is happening in the rest of the world, which is a very kind of a naive kind of youthful way of looking at things, which is very much the page energy. Page is kind of the youth, the student, learning new things. There's a lot of enthusiasm to be learning and starting on a new adventure, but this is not mastery yet. And one of the things that's very common in youths or people that are still just starting out is a self-centeredness that involves because you're trying something new and you're always looking, am I getting this right? Can I do this better? Are other people noticing me or judging me? How am I doing? There's a lot of just a natural kind of self-centeredness of being in a kind of youthful stage of things, and that is this sort of envelopment in the aura of the self, and that is not like automatically a bad thing. Like being like self focused isn't the same thing as being like totally self-absorbed, but that's what the counsel is that we want to eventually be able to expand outward and not just be tucked in the limitations of our own kind of focus and energy. We want to then be able to expand our boundaries and include sort of other things in that. So, but this does happen as a process over time. So this, if we're looking at this as the month of February, you might be feeling a little bit more kind of inward focused at the beginning of the month while we're still in Aquarius season, and sorting out some of these kind of page-like ideas. So if we're dealing with wands and fire energy, that's all about like motivation, drive, action, inspiration. And so it's sort of like focusing on what inspires you, probably perhaps a new project, maybe something that's been kind of conceptually growing this winter, that's sort of been like sitting like in last, the season of Capricorn, we were kind of talking about starting from winter solstice as the days get growing longer. It's kind of like this little seed that's deep in the earth in wintertime that is starting, even before you see anything on the surface of the ground, it's starting, there's this bud that's starting to burst up, it's being nurtured in the womb of the earth, and then by the time we actually see something in spring, the springtime, when you see the green shoots of new life, that's not when new life just starts. It started way before in the winter season, percolating underground. So we're still in February, we're still in that winter season that things are percolating, but now we're starting to feel a little bit more of that getting closer to budding energy. So this beginning of the month in Aquarius season, you can be thinking like, what really is what's motivating? What is something that once the spring energy takes over that I'm really going to be wanting to be blossoming, but for now it's still in this sort of incubating energy stage, incubating in the heat of this specific aura that's wrapped around you. So that's where we can kind of start in February and start at the beginning with this Aquarius season. And we may be thinking in terms of Aquarius, some different themes of Aquarius are like this ideas that are going to spring us forward to the next level, and also themes of freedom and that which is good and strong for the community. And there can be this tension if we are too focused in this sort of page energy when applied to the concept of freedom. We can get a little bit focused on my freedom, what is important for me, as a, kind of picture this youth as like a teenager who's like, I'm exploring these ideas, I've got this energy, I'm exploring these ideas of freedom and these like, what's the next big leap forward? But, teenagers are still kind of like, I want the freedom. It's kind of for me. I don't want this authority over top of me, but they haven't really quite integrated the importance of responsibility for the whole, and that yes, there's freedom for the individual, but that is in the context of what is healthy for a whole community, because the whole community is full of a bunch of individuals that have their own desires, their own freedoms, their own wishes, and they can never subordinate somebody else's for their own. And that kind of teenager coming into adulthood is all about learning how to not compromise your own needs and freedoms and beliefs in a like repressive way, but to understand that you are in a context of community for others. So that is sort of what through the month, as we move out of Aquarius season, or we might be thinking about these concepts of freedom, these new ideas, but also wanting to then connect it to the larger picture, the larger community at large. And once we roll into Pisces season, one of the explorations of Pisces is looking at the whole collective and sort of breaking down the boundaries that separate me from you and that separate all of us from each other, and realizing that, well, yeah, we are individuals, but part of that is a bit of an illusion, that we're individuals in a community, that we are, humans in an ecosystem. So our context as individuals takes place in the whole, and we need to make sure that we have good relationship to everybody. And so when we finally move past that Aquarius kind of hothouse of what is this idea, what are these freedoms, what can they do for me, and then expand out of that kind of aura and think and look around at the whole community, look around for everybody and see, okay, this isn't just me. This is a way bigger picture, and you move away from that single narrow-mindedness into this large expansion. And that's going to feel for you as a Pisces, it might be more of the challenge at the beginning of the month to be focusing more on the self. If you tend to like doing, well, I'd rather think of other people, or I just kind of like to, I just feel a lot of the energies of other people or other people's emotions, and it might be hard for you to really like actually put that aura up at first and have some boundaries and think, what do I really believe? That's not somebody else's opinion. That's not somebody else's need. That's not some other sort of cultural input that's coming from outside, but really your the difficulty for you might be at this beginning of the month of really thinking of the self. First, put on your walls as an individual so that afterwards you can dissolve them and really connect with everybody else as individuals instead of just we're looking not to become homogenous where we have no identity whatsoever, but to be a collective of that still has that individual spark. And that it's, if this just feels kind of like words, there's nothing super tangible, that is okay. These can be kind of, like concepts that are sometimes hard to explain. They're more things that when you sense it and when you're involved in that connection, you're like, yeah, okay, these things can be a little bit intangible, but that's sort of what we start exploring in the Pisces season. So actually, you may actually find that you may be the kind of leaders in the upcoming season towards the end of February to help other people that are maybe have it easier to be sort of self-identified, but when it comes to opening up and expanding and looking at the collective as a whole and experiencing that deep love and empathy for others, this might be something you really excel at, and you can have the compassion to kind of help other people who, when they look outside and let those boundaries fall, it can be really scary. It can be really alarming for other people. And if this is something that's a little bit easier for you to process as a Pisces, this is a really, really great time for you to step up as a leader or step up in compassion and hold that space for others to say, hey, like, don't worry, this is just another way of being. This is just another way to perceive things. It's just a little bit of a practice here. So that was kind of a lot that I just sort of threw at you. I'm just going to see if there's anything else specific from the card here. Okay, just that little bit then where it's talking about ordeals of fire and recognizing ordeals as fire as an inner purification and enrichment from those lessons. This is fire energy again, and you are a water energy, so there might be a tendency to just like, a difficulty to sit with the burning spark, whether it can be challenging if it's in a spark character from somebody else, like other fire energies coming at you that you're like, ooh, I just kind of want to douse that a little. This is kind of hard for you to sit with, or whether it's your own kind of inner fire that you've maybe had a harder time accessing, or you're just trying to build into some of those more fiery, direct, action-oriented qualities to kind of balance out some of that Piscean water energy. Whatever it is, if there's a bit of like tension of like, no, this fire and water doesn't really want to mix, if you can recognize that challenge as an opportunity, it doesn't have to be in that tension forever, but it is always good to bring in kind of a counter element, to build empathy and understanding that people are different than you and that there are other ways of being and they're not more right or wrong than yours. And then also to be a contrast and appreciation for your own particular elemental energy, and just sort of fitting it all into the ecosystem that we need. All types, all fire, water, earth, airs, all of those energies are important for an intact ecosystem. So fighting with and kind of wrestling with and challenging yourself with some energies that maybe are a little less comfortable for you might feel like an ordeal at the time, but at the end, when you're in the page stage is when you're still learning and you're still kind of struggling with those things, and that's just the first step on the road to in the future where you have that mastery, you understand the context of why it was valuable to be challenged in that way in the first place, and then you can have kind of that patience and appreciation for the stage of the youth, the page stage, the learning mindset, which allows you to look at yourself with compassion for this current moment and for any other times in the future where you are embarking on something new and you are going into that page energy again, and now you know to have a bit more compassion with yourself. And then also as you look outside of your borders and you look at other people, you can hold them in compassion, especially if they are the kinds of people who just beat up on themselves and want to be perfect right away. There's just a lot of opportunity to give into the community by embracing and being comfortable with this particular stage of beginnership. And that's, just a gift that'll keep reverberating out. So this month of February, just a quick recap, is going to be a lot of both at the beginning, kind of trying to look into your own kind of inner motivations and forces and concepts of freedom and concepts of any new ideas that have been kind of budding in the winter, new things that you're wanting to be able to launch into action in the spring. This is a great time to be thinking at it just first in an individual way, but first as an individual in order to then step out into the community and be able to give these ideas as a gift so that the whole, the collective, everybody gets to benefit. We can all rise up together, and that'll be more towards the end of the month when we come into Pisces season and your birthdays. So that's all I've got for you, Pisces. I hope you have a wonderful February, and if you are in the northern hemisphere, just hang on to the end of winter. And if you're in the south, then I hope you've had a fabulous, wonderful, and energizing summer. And yeah, so best of luck and my love to you, Pisces.